First funeral I attended was a week or so after my 8th birthday. And it was of a lady who was close friends with my mother. I called her aunt. I called her children my cousins because they were closer to me than my own cousins. Unfortunately, her life was taken away by her husband. This happened in Cincinnati, Ohio. He went to Ohio's death row and he's still alive. 32 years later, he's still alive. Now, recently, the incident with Mr. Rodney Hinton Jr., in regards to him facing aggravated murder charges and receiving the death penalty enhancement, is very interesting to me, especially because the state of Ohio has a governor. His name is Mike DeWine. And Mike DeWine, he has delayed the execution of the man who murdered my aunt. Her name was Carol Ann Lee. As I listened to the press conference and the comments of Hamilton County's coroner about electing your senators and stuff like that.
If the public is watching this, please reach out to your Ohio senators to support Senator Blessing's amendment that he's introducing, removing the language of eliminating elected coroners and instead having them appointed by the commissioners. This is why you need to have us elected.
Well, Ohio senators are trying to end the death penalty. But this is going to be interesting because Ohio is trying to move to a state that is not a death penalty state. But with this case of Rodney Hinton Jr. and the death penalty enhancement on his charges, that seems to provide some relief to the law enforcement community in Cincinnati. However, the governor and the Senate want to take away the death penalty. So will Mr. Hinton receive the death penalty? Will he go to death row? Well, if you ask me, I say no. If he does, he'll just wait out the time before the lawmakers in Ohio choose to end the death penalty. So for me, I'm looking at it as just for a show. OhioSenate.gov, and this is called It's Time to End Ohio's Death Penalty by Nikki J. Antonio, November 1st, 2023, the Democratic Standard. The General Assembly, I have once again introduced bipartisan legislation to end the use of the death penalty in the state of Ohio, replacing it with a sentence of life in prison without parole for capital cases. Okay, this is the 135th General Assembly, Senate Bill 101 will be the vehicle. Death penalty repeal bills have been introduced in Ohio many times over the last decade. I continue to speak with my colleagues in the state house on both sides of the aisle every day, and the momentum for ending the death penalty is palpable. There has for many years been bipartisan support for abolishing the death penalty. This General Assembly's bills have brought together the strongest bipartisan and bicameral effort yet. This bill has sponsored over 1/3 of the Senate, including 5 Republicans and 7 Democrats. And this is on from Fox 19 News Now. Execution date for Hamilton County man postponed until 2026. Mike DeWine, that's the governor of Ohio, on Friday extended the reprieve for a Hamilton County man on death row for killing his wife in 1993. James O'Neill was originally scheduled for execution in February 2021. DeWine in 2020 pushed the date to August 2023 due to a shortage of lethal injections in Ohio. O'Neill's new execution date will be in August of 2026. The delay is due to ongoing problems involving the willingness of pharmaceutical companies to provide drugs to Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction pursuant to DRC protocol without endangering other Ohioans, according to a statement from the governor's office. O'Neill was convicted of fatally shooting his wife, Carol O'Neill, in September 1993, according to court documents filed in 2013. The shooting took place after Carol kicked James and his sons out of her house, court documents say, James admitted to officers that he broke into the house, followed her upstairs to a bedroom, and shot her in December of that year to teach her lessons. According to court documents, Carol's son, Ricardo, told investigators that James attempted to shoot him but gave up when the gun jammed. After a forensic exam took place, investigators matched the bullet to the pistol James used during the murder. Court documents also say that James was indicted for purposely causing Carol's death during the commission of an aggravated burglary, purposely causing her death with prior calculation and design for the attempted murder of Ricardo in aggravated burglary. The indictment included 4 firearms and 2 death penalty specifications. Governor DeWine also extended reprieves for 2 other Ohio men, Jerome Henderson and Melvin Bonnell. James O'Neill, and he has been appealing his case throughout the years, throughout the decades. And recently he tried to use a case law from Virginia about him being mentally retarded. There were tests conducted. His history was evaluated, and I will share a link for this. This is for my fellow psych nerds. In the end, O'Neal lost. An appellate court would not reverse a trial court determination of the issue of mental retardation if the determination was supported by reliable, credible evidence. O'Neal's over 70 IQ score raised the presumption that he was not mentally retarded. We conclude that reliable, credible evidence supported at the trial court's determination that O'Neal have failed to overcome the presumption. Therefore, we overrule the assignment of error and affirm the judgment of the court below. November 14th, 1992, James O'Neal, and I'm not going to address her by that last name. Her name is Carol Ann Lee, were married. Then they lived together in Coreyville. Now, my family knew them prior to that when we lived in another neighborhood in Cincinnati when I was a little girl. And that's my earliest memories of her, was sitting on the couch watching TV, and she introduced me to Butterfingers. She shared a Butterfinger with me. But her and my mother were in constant connection because my mom did her hair. When they lived in Coreyville, they were like 3 doors down from us. And that's when I knew her children. They were like our cousins. They were close to us in age, and we grew up together. We played outside together. Eventually, she moved away after she got married. So in September of 1993, Carol individually entered a lease agreement for a home in Madisonville, Ohio. Subsequently, Carol and her 4 children moved into the house, and afterwards, O'Neal and his 2 children also moved into the house. But by December of 93, the marital relationship between the 2 had deteriorated, in part to the discord amongst the children and problems between O'Neal and Carol's oldest son, Rico. During this time, Carol worked at a parking garage during the day and a convenience store at night. So she was working 2 jobs to support her family. So on December 7th, a week after my birthday, an altercation occurred between Carol and O'Neal. As a result, the Cincinnati police responded. They found her very upset and very fearful. They had an argument, and she also advised that it was very important that O'Neal moved out of the house. So they were not living together. He left the house. So that was not his home. On December 11th, 1993, O'Neal called Carol at her place of employment, and a coworker had answered the phone. He put it on speakerphone, and the coworker testified that she heard O'Neal say, "Bitch, it ain't over yet." And he started laughing and hung up the phone. Carol, she fainted. She pretty much fainted because it just messed her up so bad. She was nervous and jittery at work the rest of the day. Later that evening, O'Neal broke the glass portion of the front door and entered Carol's home. At the time, Carol was coming down the stairs. When the glass broke, she ran upstairs, and she had her 3 youngest children in a bedroom. Carol directed the children into a closet, and she stood pushing on the bedroom door, trying to keep O'Neal from entering. 2 of Carol's children were looking out of the closet and testified that the appellant fired a shot at the bathroom door and that Carol fell to the floor behind the bathroom door. The appellant then entered a bedroom, and while standing over Carol, fired 2 or 3 shots at her. One of the bullets struck Carol in the upper left chest. The appellant left the bedroom and confronted Carol's oldest child, Rico, who was then 14 years old. According to Rico, O'Neal pointed the gun at his neck and pulled the trigger at least twice. When the gun did not fire, O'Neal hit him in the face with the gun and left the house. A witness who was delivering a pizza at a neighbor's house on the day of the murder testified that he saw O'Neal approach the front door. He also noticed that he was wearing a thick jacket with the collar pulled up and a hat that was pulled down over a large portion of his head. Moments later, the witness heard breaking glass and realized that O'Neal had entered the neighboring house. The witness testified that within seconds after O'Neal had entered the home, he heard a woman screaming, "No, no, no," and the cries of "no" were then followed by several gunshots. The witness saw O'Neal leave the house and walk quickly up the street. The witness stated that approximately 30 seconds had passed from the time he heard the glass break and O'Neal left the house. After O'Neal left the house, the witness approached the house and he heard children shouting that their mother had been shot. The witness entered the home, went upstairs, and saw Carol lying on a bed. When he asked her who did this, she answered faintly, "My husband." The witness ran to go get help. Police responded to the 911 calls, noticed the glass of the front door had been shattered. The police went upstairs and found Carol lying on the bed suffering from a chest wound. They also noticed that Ricardo had a severe gash on his face. Later that day, during surgery, Carol died. The forensic pathologist concluded that a bullet had lacerated one of Carol's lungs and a major vein to her heart, that she died as a result of blood loss. Later that night, on December 11, 1993, a police canine unit discovered O'Neal hiding inside a house that he had broken into near the Plainville Road residence. O'Neal surrendered. In the process. He slid a .25 caliber Raven semi-automatic pistol across the floor to police. Police took possession of the pistol and later testified that the gun appeared to be jammed. After being advised of his Miranda rights, O'Neal told detectives that he and Carol had argued about the children on December 7th and that he had hit her. During the questioning, O'Neal acknowledged that he was aware that Carol had filed a complaint against him following the December 7th altercation. O'Neal also indicated that on December 11th, he had not been living at the Plainville Road home. O'Neal stated that prior to that date, he had moved out when Carol demanded that he and his sons leave the home, and that since that time, he had been living on the streets. O'Neal also stated that he did not know where his sons were living. O'Neal told police that he had entered the residence by kicking the front glass door and that he had chased Carol up the steps. O'Neal further confessed that he forced his way into the bedroom as Carol lay huddled on the floor behind the bedroom door, crying and screaming. He shot her 2 or 3 times. O'Neal also stated that he wanted to teach her a lesson and that he did not care if she died. Officers also testified that O'Neal showed exactly no emotion, one way or the other, as to whether he cared. When asked whether he would do anything differently, considering that Carol died as a result of the shooting, O'Neal stated, "I have no regrets what I did. It hurts what she did to my kids." So I just wanted y'all to see who Mike DeWine and the fellow senators of Ohio want to spare the life of. My mother, I remember this funeral. My mother, we had to go to Gar Funeral Home in Cincinnati. My mother did Carol's hair and makeup for the last time for her funeral. And I still remember being there trying to make sense of what was going on at her funeral. I remember seeing Rico, and he had a patch over his eye. And I remember her daughter was just crying. And this was so odd to me. As a little girl, I was trying to make sense of it. Every time I saw them, we were happy, we were playing. But to take the mother from these children, I'm now a mother. I've given my mother grandchildren. He took this from her. He took her from her children. So using this case to summarize and show that it's likely that Rodney Hinton Jr. will not go to Ohio's death row because lawmakers in Ohio are trying to end death row. That's why James O'Neal was still alive. And I really hope with all my soul that his execution goes forth in August of next year, because I'm making this proclamation. I will be there and I will cheer him as he goes to the pits of hell for taking this woman away from her children and affecting all of us who loved her. Right in hell, you bastard. I'm in the process of editing the video that you just finished watching. This is one of the reasons that pushed me into law enforcement. The officers that responded, put this case together, the investigators who brought justice for my aunt and her children, that is remarkable work. And since we're on the topic of Cincinnati police, there are some great officers that work there. I've came in contact with plenty of them, and to be transparent, I actually applied for Cincinnati police at one point in time. The professionalism and the attention to detail and putting that case together to bring forth justice for them is what I wanted to bring to other people, to other families who needed it. That was the call to action that I responded to. I actually repeat this case. I repeat different things that happened in my life when it came to encounters with the police, with Cincinnati police being the first department that, I encountered in my life. I reflect on that. I reflect on times. I reflect on things. And I use that when I will apply for different agencies in my interviews and stuff like that. And it still affects me to this day where I'm sharing this story with you. So thank you for giving me this moment to peel back some layers, but also, not just be a personality on this platform, but to also appear before you as a woman, as a human, as a person. I lost contact with my cousins. I lost contact with them. And, you know, over the years, we all go our different directions. Life takes us where we are. So if you're familiar with the story and know of her children, please put them in contact with me. I would love to connect with them and, you know, continue to grow and heal with them and be with them as they go through the ups and downs of this case continuing to play out. So thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next video.